In a futuristic era, when technology has reached its peak, the world's biggest virtual reality game, Three Kingdoms, launches, drawing in millions of players. For a long time, the game was dominated by a single player, widely regarded as the most powerful gamer alive, until one day, he vanished without a trace. 3 years pass. Now, in the present, a new version of the game is about to launch, and this time only the 64 most powerful players in the world will be granted entry. The whole world waits eagerly for this grand launch. Then a piece of news breaks that stuns everyone. An unknown player has been personally selected by the higher authorities, without having to take any qualifying test at all. People immediately start wondering who this mystery player could possibly be. Meanwhile, in a cafe, a group of guys are sitting around. One of them tells his assistant that he wants to hit diamond rank today, no matter what, and asks him to call in the one guy who can clear any game effortlessly. The assistant explains that this particular player doesn't touch the Kingdoms game. Undeterred, the man tells him to offer triple the pay, but the assistant insists money means nothing to him. Slightly irritated, the man scoffs. Everyone has a price, and says he'll talk to him himself. A little later, that mysterious figure walks into the cafe. His name is Shio. He's an expert at essentially every game, yet he has no account of his own in any of them. Instead, he boosts other people's accounts for cash, pushing them from bronze all the way to diamond in half an hour flat, which leaves everyone stunned. Girls start crowding around him. Once the job's done, Shio collects his payment and heads for the door. That's when the man stops him and offers 10 times the money if he can take his rank all the way to number 1 in Three Kingdoms. Shio simply refuses. He doesn't play that game, and walks off. Around the same time, the new version's showcase is about to kick off. A powerful player named Esima, known as the Queen of Killing, reveals her hero. In this new version, only the 64 selected players get to use unique heroes, each with their own distinct set of abilities. News that sends the players and the audience into a frenzy. On top of that, these players discover something even more shocking. They can summon their in-game heroes into the real world, indistinguishable from actual human beings. It's a genuinely unsettling development. The players don their VR headsets and step onto the battlefield. Esima stands ready with her powerful hero, Chu, the leader of Kill, as her opponent squares off with her own fighter. The instant the match begins, Chu strikes first, shattering the opponent's shield guard. Esima immediately commands him to unleash his hidden power, Coal, and the sheer force of it transforms the entire atmosphere of the battlefield. The whole world is watching live. Shio happens to be riding a train, watching the same match alongside two strangers. One of them predicts Esima will win easily. She's one of the top 3 players on the planet, and her own father created the game. Shio stands nearby, quietly studying the fight. When the opponent suddenly unleashes a blistering attack on Chu, Shio murmurs that it's a trap, and sure enough, Esima sacrifices her hero's armor to land a devastating counterstrike. Both sides land heavy hits at almost the same instant, and Shio remarks that the finishing move is coming. Esima unleashes her strongest skill from above, but her opponent reacts instantly, smashing her core card to keep the attack from ever activating. For a moment, it looks like Esima is finished, but Shio, smiling faintly, says this is exactly what she planned, and sure enough, Esima destroys the counter and orders Chu to release his final attack. He crashes straight into the opponent with tremendous force, sealing the win. Shio calls every one of these moves in advance, as if he can genuinely see the future. A little later, Shio gets off at his stop. The two strangers stand frozen, still stunned that he predicted the entire match so effortlessly, muttering to each other that this guy can't be normal. At that same moment, on the live broadcast, the host asks Esima directly, "Is it true that one of the 64 players received a special invitation? No test required." Esima confirms it without hesitation. Pressed for the name, she reveals that this mystery player is none other than the greatest player in the history of kingdoms, George Shio. The room erupts, and here's the twist. Our protagonist, Shio, is that very player, once the strongest in the game's entire history. A flashback reveals that Shio, Esima, and a third close friend used to rule the world of kingdoms together as the most powerful team around. Of the 3, Shio was the most talented, on the verge of signing massive contracts with major companies, until, out of nowhere, he was accused of cheating and hacking. His reputation collapsed, he was banned for 2 years, and after that, he vanished completely for 3 years without a word to anyone. In the present, people question Esima's decision to invite him, mocking Shio as a cheater who was never really that powerful to begin with. Meanwhile, Shio is quietly living his ordinary life. At the supermarket beneath his apartment, the shopkeeper asks if he used to be a gamer, and whether he knows Josh Shio, the name now on everyone's lips. Two girls working there gush about wanting to be like him and jokingly wonder if there was ever something between him and Ekima. Shio brushes it off, saying he has nothing to do with a person like that and just wants to be left to his own business. It's the first time he's heard his own name go this viral, and the strangeness of it sends him quietly out the door. Back home, alone, a message arrives from his father. Creditors are closing in. It turns out his father had borrowed heavily from several people, and after the company went bankrupt, he fled the country, leaving Shio to shoulder the entire burden. That's when Echima suddenly climbs in through his window. Startled, Shio demands to know how she found his address. She explains she came because he never accepted her invitation and never replies to her messages either. Slightly rattled, he asks if she's been following him. Without any hesitation, she admits she has, and if that bothers him, he's welcome to say so. Then she gets to the point. Will he show up to tomorrow's opening match and finally show the world his power? He flatly says no. So Asima decides she'll simply stay until he changes his mind and starts cooking herself something to eat, only to burn her hand on the stove moments later. Shio rushes to get her medicine and tends to her. Looking him in the eye, she tells him he has to come tomorrow and prove to everyone he's no cheater. Shio, hesitant, says it won't matter what he does. No one will believe him. Etsima insists his power alone will force the truth on everyone. While they talk, she picks up his tablet and notices he still hasn't deleted their old photos together. As she scrolls further, he tries to grab it back, and they both tumble down, staring at each other for an odd, charged moment, right before Chu suddenly materializes in front of them. Startled, Shio demands to know who he is and how he got there. Ekima explains, this is her hero, one Shio already knew of, but is now seeing in person for the first time. Shio is floored by how completely human Chu looks. Chu, for his part, says he's heard a lot about Shio and that he ought to return to Three Kingdoms, maybe even a way to pay off his father's debt. The comment sets Shio off, and he throws them both out. Echima apologizes on Chu's behalf, insisting he meant no harm, then changes the subject to ask what Shio thinks of the new version. She explains that in this new version, every player has summoned a powerful fighter, except for one legendary warrior, Jia Feng, whom no one has managed to summon yet. She suspects that fighter might be waiting specifically for Shio. She tells him she'll be waiting for him tomorrow, fully confident he'll show up. The next day, at tournament headquarters, Esima waits. A top player named Winter, one of the strongest in the world, tells her not to bother. Shio won't come. Esima insists he will, because he's innocent, and the truth will eventually come out. Winter just laughs and tells her she'd be better off dropping his side of things. The commentator calls all 64 players into the arena, Ekima among them, as the crowd roars. Everyone assumes Shio really isn't coming, until at the very last second, he comes sprinting in. Ekima smiles. The rest of the players are stunned. Shio tells her he wants to win the tournament to pay off his father's debt, but Echima corrects him. He's not here to win. He's here to prove the truth. The other players, overhearing, grumble that he clearly wants both. Meanwhile, Echima's father, Mr. Shi, watches the match with an unknown man, who asks whether Josh Shio should even be allowed in the tournament. Mr. Shi replies that if he hasn't cheated, he deserves the chance to prove his skill. Elsewhere, Shio steps into the summoning room, puts on the device, and a legendary warrior appears before him, introducing himself as Jia Feng. Shio immediately recognizes him as the fighter no one else could summon. The first match is announced, Shio versus a player named Zheng. As Shio enters the battlefield with Feng, the crowd boos him mercilessly, but he tosses it all aside and focuses. Feng tells him he finds his personality interesting, but first, they'll have to prove themselves, starting again from zero and rebuilding their strength from scratch, just like before. The commentator announces the stakes, 64 of the world's most powerful players, competing for the #1 spot and a $10 million prize. As the match begins, the two strangers from the train are watching again. One remarks he always knew Shio wasn't ordinary, while the other studies Feng's profile. The weaker his life energy gets, the more powerful skills he can access, an extremely dangerous ability. Shio opens aggressively. Feng releases a massive energy hand from the sky that slams the opponent down and absorbs one of her skill cards. Furious, Zheng orders a full-power counterattack. Feng blocks it, then vanishes and reappears with a devastating explosive strike that costs her a life, each fighter having a limited number. Zheng tries again with her strongest shield and a massive attack, landing it clean, but Shio doesn't flinch, having planned exactly for this, and heals Feng right away, drawing multiple new skill cards in the process. It's all thanks to Feng's special ability. The more damage he takes, the more skills he gains, and the higher his attack ceiling climbs. Watching from the sidelines, Ekima smiles. Shio is still the same reckless, high-risk player she remembers. By the time the commentator announces they've racked up 9 total skills, everyone is stunned. That many is exceedingly rare. Zheng can't believe how fast it happened. Undeterred, Xiao says 9 isn't nearly enough, summons a powerful sword to smash through her defense, and unleashes an ice burst attack that destroys 2 more of her skills, leaving her with just 1 chance left. He doesn't stop there. Another advanced skill forces her fighter into close combat. Feng gets behind her and lands a shattering blow that leaves her completely helpless, while Xiao and Feng still have plenty of skills in reserve. The outcome looks all but decided. Furious, Zheng insists this much luck in a single moment is impossible. Xiao must have planned all of it. He just smiles and says, "Believe whatever you like," then commands Feng to finish it. But just as the finishing blow is about to land, Zheng threatens him, "Back off from Ekima, or she'll expose his father's debt to the whole world, how his father borrowed from people and fled." The threat rattles Xiao badly, and she keeps talking until the timer runs out, forcing a draw and saving her by the skin of her teeth. Even so, the crowd is squarely behind Xiao, cheering his skill. The 2 strangers admit they never expected him to be this powerful, while Yang, watching from the side, just smiles knowingly and walks off, as if he already knew Xiao was still every bit as dangerous as before. Zheng complains that no one's giving her credit. Technically it was a draw, but everyone saw exactly how outmatched she looked. Walking alongside him, Feng praises his strategy as always brilliant. Esima video calls Xiao, congratulating him, calling him king, for his comeback, though she adds, he still has a long way to go before he's the legend he once was. By the way, his old friend was watching this match too. When Esima mentions Yang, Xiao flatly says Yang isn't his friend. Clearly there's history between them. He asks Feng, teasingly, if he's half asleep from clinging to him so much. Right then, a strange vision hits Xiao. A massive army preparing for what looks like a world-ending war. Kingdom's forces lined up on every side. A devastated realm consumed by an eerie blue flame. People slaughtering each other without mercy. He sees 2 figures kill a king, and Feng, badly wounded, nearly dead, standing among them. The next instant, Xiao snaps back to reality, shaken. Feng, equally serious, asks if he just saw the same old battle. He felt something similar. Xiao asks why Feng has memories like this at all, since he's supposed to be nothing more than a game character. Feng admits he genuinely doesn't know. As they walk, Xiao starts digging through Feng's data for clues, and when Feng suddenly touches his forehead to Xiao's, the same vision replays. Afterward, Feng asks what that was. Xiao guesses that whenever their heads touch, they can see each other's memories, but he doubts this is part of the game, since neither of them is even wearing a headset right now. If it isn't the game, he wonders aloud, then what exactly is it? And if this really is happening outside virtual reality, things could get very dangerous. Still confused, the 2 arrive at the store below Xiao's apartment. The shopkeeper greets him warmly. "So the truth's finally out," he says. He always knew Xiao wasn't ordinary, and a small, excited crowd gathers to meet him, now that his identity is public. Back home, Xiao dives into research on the strange memory incident. Normally, new memories unlock naturally as a player levels up or wins fights. But what happened to him and Feng felt entirely outside that system. Feng tells him one thing is clear regardless. Their memories open up further whenever they win battles, so winning the next fight is non-negotiable. At the same time, Esima experiences the same memory, from her fighter's perspective, and sees the same king. Snapping out of it, Chu tells her they've unlocked something new, but she feels an odd unease whenever these memories surface. If it's a bug, she thinks, it needs fixing soon. She decides to tell her father, but on her way to him, she hears a crash and rushes in to find him injured. He insists he's fine, just tired, though the moment strongly hints he's hiding something. Back with Xiao, he checks his next opponent and discovers it's his old friend Yang. Feng, still turning the vision over in his mind, presses Xiao about who those people slaughtering everyone were, insisting it can't just be a fighting game doing this. Xiao has no real answer. Then he makes a startling call. He's withdrawing from the next match. Feng is stunned. Xiao explains quietly that it's because he'd have to face Yang, one of the top 3 strongest players alive. Feng spots an old photo of the 3 of them together and teases him about whether he and Yang ever had feelings for each other and what went wrong. Xiao stays silent, refusing to bite even when Feng needles him about the cheating rumors, suggesting the real reason might be fear. Xiao insists it doesn't matter. He's made up his mind not to play Yang, but Feng disagrees completely. An opponent is a rival worth fighting, someone you compete against to settle who's truly king. Still, Xiao won't budge, so Feng tells him to just call the organizers and withdraw already. Xiao does exactly that, and a voice on the other end asks why. It's Yang himself, asking to meet in person the next day. Feng, in effect, has forced this confrontation. The next day, a different match unfolds. this one involving a man named Luo Chen, who's been in contact with Esima's father. As he fights, Mr. Shi tells him over the phone to proceed. Luo Chen cuts his own finger, smears the blood on a weapon, and summons blue flames that engulf his opponent, killing him instantly in agony. But Luo Chen isn't the only one in pain. The opponent's own player collapses, unconscious, in visible distress, and no one can explain why. Luo Chen simply walks away laughing. Watching the footage, Ekima turns to Chu, stunned. That was the same blue power they'd seen before, and clearly it hurt the player in real life too. Meanwhile, Xiao and Feng head toward their meeting with Yang, passing the training ground the three of them once built together, now grown into a full, advanced facility. Yang welcomes them, though his demeanor has clearly hardened. He pulls Xiao aside to talk privately, while Feng notices a young man named Jian, watching quietly. Feng asks him what really happened between Xiao and Yang. Jian explains, 3 years ago, Xiao hacked the game and got caught. The players he'd beaten turned on him violently, and Yang stepped in to protect him, taking the beating in his place, only for it to later be confirmed that Xiao really had cheated. That incident shattered the friendship between all three of them for good. Jian, annoyed, can't understand how Xiao has the nerve to look Yang in the eye now. Yang tells Xiao directly that withdrawing from the match isn't enough. He should leave the tournament entirely, because he won't share the game with a cheater. Xiao insists, again, that he never cheated, but admits he only wanted to withdraw because he didn't want to beat Yang, given everything Yang once did for him. Now though, after what Yang just said, he tells him to be ready, because tomorrow, he's going to win. As they leave, Yang secretly records the whole exchange and edits a clip highlighting Xiao's declaration. Jian, confused about the purpose, watches as Yang posts a second video, openly challenging Xiao. Beat him, and he'll publicly accept Xiao never cheated. Lose, and Xiao leaves the tournament for good. Both videos go viral instantly, throwing the whole community into an uproar. The challenge only sharpens Xiao's focus. This is no longer just a match, but a chance to prove his innocence once and for all. Match day arrives. Xiao's teammate is Samantha, one of the world's top 16 players. Yang's is his close friend Jian. Around the same time, Etima requests the previous day's match footage from the camera staff, only to learn, to her shock, that the recording has mysteriously vanished, as if deliberately deleted. She begins to suspect the game's characters might be capable of causing real harm, especially since doctors can't explain the injured player's condition. If true, this is a very serious problem. The media, meanwhile, interviews Esima's father, who expresses sympathy for the injured player and says he won't be able to compete again. As the audience's anticipation peaks, Yang repeats his challenge to Xiao one final time. Win, and he'll accept the truth. Lose, and Xiao's out. All eyes turn to Xiao's response. The match kicks off with palpable tension between former friends, now turned rivals. Samantha, following Xiao's lead, opens aggressively, stealing 2 cards, dealing damage, disrupting abilities, and launching a wide attack that even catches Feng. Jian counters quickly, hitting Samantha's fighter, while Feng absorbs the damage and converts it into fresh cards and skills. When Yang blocks an attack, Samantha returns the card she'd taken earlier, leaving everyone wondering if Xiao is orchestrating the entire fight. Samantha hesitates, suggesting they pull back, but Xiao insists she keep going. Feng warns they don't fully know the enemy's abilities, but Xiao takes the risk anyway. Samantha shifts targets, linking her attack to divide damage between Jian and Yang's fighters. Yang tries to break her shield, but she's ready, finishing off both Jian's fighter and Yang's own in the process, leaving only 1 life remaining between the sides, with Xiao's team's defenses nearly spent. Then Xiao does something that shocks everyone. He tells Samantha to unleash everything she has left, immediately. She launches her most powerful skill far too early, using her 1 guaranteed attack chance before it's clear whether it'll even connect. It misses, and Jian's fighter finishes her off on the spot, eliminating her. Yang attacks next, landing a crushing blow on Samantha's fighter that leaves her with just 1 life. He then attacks Feng, who catches him from behind, but Yang's fighter suddenly teleports away, leaving Yang to fight alone, while Xiao's side has no cards left, and Samantha is on the brink of defeat. The crowd wonders if Xiao's all-in gamble has any real plan behind it. Yang launches a full-force attack that leaves Samantha's fighter on her very last breath. A revival card could save her, and flip the fight 2-on-1 in Xiao's favor, but astonishingly, he lets her lose. The crowd, Ekima, even Feng are stunned. Then comes the real shock. Xiao uses the revival card on Feng instead, boosting his life energy. Xiao explains, he deliberately let Samantha absorb the full power hit to exhaust Yang's team. Jian is eliminated, Yang's skills are spent, and Feng, now boosted, with plenty of skills remaining, is the ideal fighter for this exact situation. In other words, Xiao controlled the entire battle from start to finish, using Samantha as a tool and planning the final move around Feng. The crowd doesn't take kindly to this. It looks like he sacrificed his own teammate. Feng agrees the plan was solid, if unpopular. Xiao says he doesn't care, only that it worked. Yang, incensed, accuses him of sacrificing a teammate just to win, and the accusation clearly strikes a nerve, dredging up something from Xiao's past. Yes, he says coldly, that's my way. With time running out, he lands a final powerful strike on Yang's fighter, and the battle reaches its climax. Esima, analyzing everything, can't quite decide whether Xiao is right or wrong, but one thing is undeniable. His style is brutal, built entirely around total domination, whatever the cost. Feng and Yang trade heavy blows until Xiao finally calls it. Enough, end it here, and Feng lands the finishing move. Yang loses. With the win, Xiao has proven his strength to everyone watching. True to his word, Yang admits he now believes Xiao never cheated, but warns him this is only the beginning. As Xiao and Feng walk off, Luochen watches from a distance. Mr. Shi calls him and remarks that Xiao is one of the players they've been looking for. Luochen smirks and says he's lucky, for now, to have escaped their hands, a comment Ekima overhears, leaving her stunned. Mr. Shi adds that if he hadn't intervened, Luochen would have already finished Josh off. The next day, Ekima wins her own match in record time. Afterward, she asks Chu if he felt any new memories surface. Chu touches his head to hers, letting her relive the ruler's battle again, this time with far more clarity. She recognizes the true face of one ruler, matching the fighter who stood alongside her own father, accompanied by another strange warrior, radiating blue flames. That ruler attacks King Ming, who's fighting alongside Feng at the time, wounding him almost fatally with the flame. It turns out Chu is actually King Ming's minister. As King Ming dies, he tells Chu that their time may be over, but when they're reawakened, they'll meet again. The memory ends there, and Ekima realizes the whole situation is far bigger and more complicated than she'd imagined. Feng, too, gains new memories he wants to share with Xiao, but Winter's match is starting, so the two go to watch first. Xiao's obvious dislike for Winter is plain to see. Winter opens with a chain skill that binds the enemy team, but they turn the tables, launching a fierce assault that leaves Winter and his teammate badly battered, down to a single life point after a hail of arrows. The commentator, shocked, notes that Winter, ranked among the top 3 players alongside Yang and Exima, looks completely helpless right now. Xiao, watching intently, silently insists a player as clever as Winter must have a plan. Feng even asks if Winter can still turn things around, but Xiao is too absorbed to respond. Then Winter orders his teammate into bamboo armor, nearly impervious to everything except fire, against which it becomes disastrously vulnerable, effectively a ticking time bomb. Winter's next move is even stranger. He chains his own teammate together with the enemy team, leaving everyone baffled about his intentions. Xiao predicts the game is about to end. Winter then launches a devastating fire attack, directly at his own teammate, instantly wiping out 3 of his lives. But the real plan reveals itself as the fire races through the same chains binding the enemy team, engulfing and incinerating all of them in one stroke. The move leaves everyone stunned. Winter turned his own teammate's sacrifice into a weakness he could exploit, accomplishing 2 things with a single move. The commentator, thrilled, declares this is exactly why Winter is called the world's strongest player, a genuinely dangerous, genius-level competitor. The scene shifts to Esima, who calls Zheng to say she's found something crucial in the camera footage that then mysteriously got deleted. Zheng agrees to meet her at the back gate shortly. Meanwhile, Xiao watches Winter's press interview, where Winter credits the win to teamwork, rather than sacrificing a teammate. Feng jokes that Winter is clearly taking a jab at Xiao, but Xiao's mood turns strange, angry, troubled, distant, and he drifts into memory instead of responding. He recalls winning his first world championship in Kingdoms, only to learn immediately afterward that his father's company had gone bankrupt, burying them in debt. In that fragile state, Winter had approached him claiming his own device was broken, and asked to borrow Xiao's for upcoming matches. Xiao agreed without a second thought, but when Winter returned the device, officials discovered hacked ruler data on it, and Xiao was disqualified on the spot. He tried desperately to reach Winter afterward, but Winter never answered a single call. The betrayal shattered him publicly, and he vanished from the world's sight, while Winter quietly rose to become Kingdom's most powerful, most famous player. It felt to Xiao like Winter had engineered his downfall just to clear his own path to the top. Back in the present, Feng checks if he's okay. Xiao brushes it off, insisting Winter always wanted to beat him. That was his entire obsession, then and now. Feng, energized, declares the real Xiao is finally back, and about to shake the whole of kingdoms, urging him to start training again and prove that the true legends never really left. Elsewhere, Esima and Zheng meet in a monitoring room, where Zheng plays back the deleted footage. Luo Chen's fighter releasing blue flames to finish an opponent. The moment the actual player collapses unconscious, Esima can hardly believe flames inside a game could cause this kind of real harm. Then a voice, Shio's, passing by and overhearing them, says those aren't ordinary blue flames. He's seen them before. Esima shares everything she's witnessed, and Shio, in turn, describes Feng's latest, highly detailed memories. A terrifying warrior, who seemed to be the true source of the flames, standing beside the mysterious king who fought King Ming and Feng. Esima's own memories included a scene of Chu protecting civilians while that same terrifying fighter spread destruction everywhere, with Feng, King Ming, and others caught up elsewhere in the chaos. As Esima records all this in her notes, she notices something odd. Despite the differing details and characters, Feng's and Shio's memories share a striking degree of similarity, as if someone had deliberately altered parts of them. Still, one thing seems clear: none of this is fabricated. It's real, and quite possibly the same event seen from two angles, with certain details changed. Esima thanks Shio for the crucial information. He then asks if she really believes this is just a programming glitch. Flustered, she tries to deflect and change the subject, but both Shio and Feng can tell she's deliberately holding something back. She says her goodbyes and leaves. Later, standing by a river, Chu asks why she didn't tell Shio the full truth. She explains she didn't want to drag him into trouble that isn't his fault, especially since this might involve her own father. Meanwhile, Shio tells Feng he noticed something else in the footage. When the blue flame hit the fighter, it wasn't just the game avatar that reacted, but the real player's body too, collapsing the instant the avatar was destroyed. Both Shio and Ekima independently vow to uncover the truth of kingdoms, no matter what's hidden. Shio visits the hospital to see the player injured in Luo Chen's battle, but his condition is so severe he's confined to the ICU, off limits to visitors. Over video call, Shio asks Feng whether he felt the blue flame's effect too when his general was hit. Feng describes a pain like someone reaching in and crushing his heart directly. Meanwhile, Esima has dinner with her father, the two of them relaxing together for once, the conversation drifting back to her childhood. She jokes that people always claimed her father secretly tampers with the game to guarantee her wins. He smiles and says he's already done plenty for his beloved daughter, a remark that briefly shocks her, until he laughs it off as a joke and explains that real victory comes only from hard work and talent. Then his phone rings. Whatever's said on the other end instantly turns his mood serious. He simply says, "Finish it quickly," and hangs up. Ekima, unsettled, excuses herself to the washroom and calls Chu outside, who reveals he secretly recorded the entire call. It was Luo Chen, reporting that someone had recovered his deleted match footage, though he doesn't yet know who, but he'll find out. Ekima's father had told him flatly to wrap the matter up fast. Esima is floored. She realizes Zheng is now in real danger. She messages her father an apology, saying she has somewhere urgent to be, and tries calling Zheng repeatedly, without answer. She rushes downstairs, brushes past her father's assistant Lao, without a word, and grabs a taxi towards Zheng's place. Meanwhile, Zheng manages to log into Kingdom's hidden server after considerable effort, thrilled at the prospect of finally uncovering long-buried secrets. A mysterious file opens before her, Book of Peace. Suddenly a voice congratulates her for making it this far. Luo Chen's name appears on screen. He tells her not to worry, she's not alone, and repeats his blood ritual. Instantly, her fighter is teleported into a special battlefield. She can't log out. It's as if someone has seized total control of her device, and Luo Chen's fighter enters, wreathed in the same terrifying blue flame. Zheng realizes, with dawning horror, that he means to do to her exactly what he did before. Esima, meanwhile, gets stuck in traffic. Shio happens to spot her and offers to drive her the rest of the way on his bike. Noticing her tension, he asks if she's rushing because of Zheng. She deflects again, so he deliberately slows down and stops. When she urges him to hurry, he points out that if it's not really urgent, what's the rush? He can clearly tell she's hiding something and wants her to just say it. She finally admits she doesn't have time to explain right now, and that's when Feng arrives too, cutting straight to it. They already know everything. He asks whether this game is genuinely affecting real players, and whether Kingdom's fighters are simple AI or something else entirely. Esima has no answer. Feng points out this isn't a coincidence. Both of them have noticed her strange behavior for a while, and Shio, in particular, refused to leave her alone even for a moment, clearly sensing her distress. Embarrassed, Shio starts the bike again without a word. On the way, he mentions visiting the hospital to see the injured player, and tells her that if she still doesn't want to share the truth, he won't push. Hearing this, Asima finally understands just how much he cares, and hugs him. They eventually reach Zheng's address, but she's out. A shop owner nearby mentions she went up to the building's terrace because of a bad internet connection. The three of them sprint upstairs, and the scene waiting for them is horrifying. Zhang lies bleeding on the ground, her fighter being brutally tortured by Luochen, every hit landing on her, in real, physical pain. Luochen gloats that he can torture not just real players but their fighters directly. By now Zheng is too far gone to react, her mind overwhelmed by pain, her fighter unresponsive without commands. Luochen keeps attacking, taunting her as worthless without her master. Shio tells Asima to rip off Zheng's headset, but the pain doesn't stop even after it's removed. Feng, shocked, realizes the damage is happening independent of the game itself. Shio understands there's only one option left, end the battle himself. Asima begs him not to risk his life, but he ignores her, puts on the headset, and dives into the fight. Inside, Luochen is still tormenting Zheng's bound fighter, until Shio appears out of nowhere and shatters his chains in one blow. Luochen is baffled by how her fighter suddenly got this strong. Zheng's fighter tells Shio he's fighting well, though he gets no reply. Luochen taunts them, asking if they've already given up. Meanwhile, Ekima frets over keeping Shio's true identity secret, her mind also racing with questions about her father. Feng reassures her that as long as Shio keeps fighting, Zheng still has a chance. Shio focuses everything into one devastating aerial strike on Luochen's fighter, powerful enough that Luochen himself screams in real pain for the first time in his life, genuinely shaken. Realizing this isn't Zheng he's fighting, he demands to know who it really is, but Shio ignores him and presses the attack. Zheng's fighter admits he doesn't know who Shio is, but considers it an honor to fight beside someone this powerful, and together they drag Luochen's fighter down with a series of crushing blows. Luochen, now genuinely suffering in the real world, is nearly broken, yet still laughs, taunting that Shio's attacks are almost spent, curious what he's got left. The situation gets genuinely difficult for Shio, who can't decide which card to play. He gambles on bamboo armor, hoping Luochen lacks a fire card, but Luochen, impressed, summons the very same armor. Now both are locked into ordinary attacks, waiting to see who draws a fire card first. Whoever does effectively wins. They trade blows relentlessly, reducing the battlefield to ruins, until the pressure starts to crack Luochen's composure, unsettled by Shio's aggression. Then luck turns his way. He draws the fire card first, and gleefully unleashes it, his weapon tearing straight through Zheng's fighter's body. Dying, Zheng's fighter tells Shio it was an honor to fight beside him, whoever he is, and begs him to bring the truth of this game to the world before scattering into nothing. At that exact moment, Shio feels real, physical pain in his heart and collapses. Meanwhile, Luochen, half mad with fury, contacts a mysterious figure to report that the mission's essentially complete, but a serious problem has just emerged that needs urgent attention. Shio wakes in the hospital. Feng, relieved, tells him Ekima brought both him and Zheng in before leaving. Shio immediately asks about Zheng. Feng turns serious, explaining that while her body shows no physical damage, her brain cells have suffered badly. Doctors aren't even sure of her recovery. Shio, having taken only one direct hit, recovered, but Zheng's condition is far more severe. Talking over VR glasses afterward, Feng asks about the blue flames. Shio describes them as identical to what Feng saw in his own memories. A pain like something tearing through you from the inside. Shio messages Ekima to check in. She meanwhile sits alone, deeply anxious about what they've all stumbled into. She reviews the last recording from Zheng's device and starts researching the Book of Peace mentioned there, though nothing solid turns up. She replies to Shio's message that she's fine, careful not to let on how tense she really is. She wants him to stay away from all this now, worried that the closer he gets to the truth, the greater the danger grows. When Chu asks why she won't tell Shio everything, she explains he's already been through enough, and she refuses to drag him further in. Chu suggests she herself might be in danger too, but she brushes it off. Her father, she insists, would never hurt her. Elsewhere, Luochen confirms to Etsima's father that the second player who fought alongside Zheng is still alive and at the hospital. Mr. Shi's demeanor turns instantly serious, and he orders his assistant Lao to the hospital to handle it quickly. At the hospital, Feng warns Shio that people will be coming for him now, but before he finishes the thought, footsteps approach, and Shio hides. Lao and several guards arrive shortly after, heading straight for Zheng's room. Lao reports to Mr. Shi that she's been found, and Mr. Shi stresses that catching the second player, or at minimum identifying him, is now the priority. The guards start sweeping the hospital, closing in fast. Sensing the danger, Shio pulls off his glasses, slips behind a passing doctor, and disguises himself well enough to walk right past the guards unnoticed. Even Lao, momentarily suspicious, dismisses him as ordinary staff. But then Lao remembers the CCTV footage from the earlier shop visit. The face is unclear, but the clothes match. Realizing the disguised doctor might be their target, Lao chases after him, only to find he's already gone. Guards are sent to search the upper floors while Shio, still disguised, steps into an elevator, the same one Lao happens to board. Things get worse when the shop owner recognizes him in the lobby and calls out excitedly. Shio quickly pulls him aside to avoid a scene. When the guards report no one suspicious upstairs, Lao realizes the disguised doctor must have been the real target and rushes back. But by then Shio has already ditched the coat and slipped away on the metro. On the train, a news broadcast claims Zeng's condition is purely due to mental stress. A blatant cover-up that infuriates Shio, confirming the real truth is being deliberately hidden. Feng remarks that harder days lie ahead, then notices Ekima's game account has been suspiciously online for a while. Shio immediately heads to Yang's hotel, running into Jian, still working there. Using Jian's account and device, Shio quietly monitors Ekima's activity without revealing himself, just to make sure she's safe, even playing a match alongside her under Jian's identity and chatting briefly. But then there's a knock at Ekima's door, Mr. Shi, asking if she visited the Western Side shop yesterday. Surprised, she asks how he knows, and he shows her CCTV stills, explaining that hackers tried to breach Kingdom's system yesterday, prompting a security sweep that happened to catch her on camera. He asks if she saw anyone unusual there, but she cuts straight to the point. Was any damage done to the game? He says no, then shows her a second image, a boy in a red and blue outfit, standing suspiciously close to her. She flatly denies knowing him. Then she turns the tables, demanding to know why Luo Chen's match footage was deleted. Mr. Shi is visibly thrown for a moment before recovering, claiming it was a technical glitch. But Echima presses further. What exactly did Luo Chen do to that fighter, and to Zeng? He deflects, citing tournament stress, but she insists a specific attack caused their conditions. His demeanor shifts. He demands to know who told her this. She meets his eyes, and says she already knows the truth. She just wants to understand what's really happening inside Kingdoms. The moment she says blue flames, Mr. Shi is struck by sudden agonizing pain, clutching his head, as if it might split open. Just as abruptly, he goes eerily calm, his eyes and manner turning robotic, and repeats, over and over, that the blue flames are simply Ekima's special ability. Confused and alarmed, she asks what's wrong with him, but he just keeps repeating the line before saying he's unwell, and walking off without explanation. Esima is left badly shaken, sensing that something, or someone, is controlling her father. She heads outside, tense and distracted, unaware that Shio, disguised beyond recognition, is watching her from a nearby cafe, before quietly following. She eventually notices and confronts him. Didn't he say he'd stay out of this? He tells her he can't leave her alone, not until they've both learned the truth. She admits she started to fear her own father, even though her heart refuses to believe he could ever hurt her. She tells him everything, Mr. Shi's strange, robotic behavior. Shio concludes her father must be involved somehow, though Eczema agrees something still feels off. For a moment, it was like a completely different person had taken over her father's body entirely. Elsewhere, Mr. Shi arrives at a secret location, where a mysterious figure welcomes him alone and begins putting him through some strange process or training. Eczema again pleads with Shio to step back. The danger has escalated, and both their lives are now at risk. But he refuses, asking pointedly whether she could really solve any of this alone, simply by confronting her father directly. Their only real option now, he says, is to keep piecing together Feng's and Chu's memories until the full truth comes into focus. For the first time, Shio opens up completely. He's not just fighting for himself, but for Feng and Chu too. He points out that their pain feels entirely real, entirely human. If they were merely game characters, none of this would be happening. He believes the truth of Kingdoms goes far beyond an ordinary game, and that saving themselves means saving Feng and Chu as well. Eczema is stunned. It's the most open Shio has ever been. Chu agrees this is clearly bigger than any single plan or scheme, and that solving it will take all of them together. Eczema finally agrees to see it through with him to the end. The three retreat somewhere quiet to plan. Eczema shows them the Book of Peace, asking if it matches what Feng and Chu described in their memories. Shio confirms it does. The book was central to Feng's memories, tied to battles and history. Chu agrees, recalling it connected to ancient wars and hidden rulers. Shio suggests they re-examine the backgrounds of all 64 selected players. The selection process, he suspects, wasn't nearly as random as it seemed. Strange incidents occurred during qualifiers, Some powerful players vanished mysteriously, others fainted mid-match, as though hit by the same blue flame attack, though the sheer volume of participants meant no one took it seriously at the time. He also notes that the fighter accidentally caught on camera in Luo Chen's match was likely never meant to be recorded, which is why it was so quickly eliminated, since it didn't fit whatever criteria the real orchestrators were using. Analyzing the current top 8 finalists and their matchups, the three noticed something deeply unsettling. The entire tournament structure mirrors the ancient war from Feng and Chu's memories almost exactly. 8 legendary warriors, all pitted against the same mysterious blue flame warrior who effortlessly overpowered them all. Feng realizes that, if the pattern holds, 6 of the current top 8 might already be part of the same plan, since the blue flame fighter's true identity remains unknown, meaning he's almost certainly one of the people secretly orchestrating everything, quite possibly with Mr. Shi involved too. Esima worries that if they reach the finals, they might face the blue flame fighter directly, and wonders aloud whether they could even survive that. Shio, undaunted, points out that the power cuts both ways. Whoever wields it suffers the same pain they inflict, so no matter what, he'll fight to his last breath. Feng backs him fully, confident the two of them together can take down whatever's coming. Meanwhile, in another part of the tournament, Samantha dominates a one-on-one match so effortlessly that everyone's stunned, though something about the fight feels subtly off, without anyone quite able to pin down why. Afterward, at a secret location, her fighter Wen asks how she handled the Mr. Shi situation. She assures him it's under control. She's already manipulated him into focusing on protecting his daughter and covering up the mess, and he's fully under their influence now. In a hidden room, a shared screen displays the profiles of several chosen players: Jian, Winter, Luochen, Ekima, and finally Shio. Samantha declares that eliminating the suspicious player is now the priority, deciding to pit Luochen against Shio directly in the next match, since Shio is nearly the only one capable of pressuring Luochen this badly. And here the biggest reveal lands. Samantha is the true mastermind secretly pulling every string, Mr. Shi included. But Wen stops her. He's grown genuinely interested in Shio and wants to see how far his strength really goes before anyone eliminates him. The next day brings the tournament's most dangerous battle yet, a 5-player free-for-all involving Wen, Winter, Jian, Luochen, Esima, and Shio. Word spreads that this won't be a normal match but an outright catastrophe. The crowd splits between Winter loyalists and Shio supporters. Before the match, a reporter asks Esima who she thinks is truly the strongest, Shio or Winter. She says Winter is undeniably powerful, but Shio has proven his strength can't be dismissed, a comment Winter overhears with visible anger. As the arena fills, Samantha and Wen approach Shio and Feng separately. Samantha, unusually warm, pulls Shio aside, pretending sympathy over the pressure he must be under, and offers him a lucky charm, which he declines. As they talk, she quietly twists a ring on her finger, releasing an invisible pulse of energy, and Shio's eyes glaze over, his body frozen like a statue. She begins interrogating him under hypnosis, confirming his identity, but when she pushes further, asking why he's really here, he suddenly snaps out of it, confused, saying only that he felt dizzy, and remembers her twisting her ring. Samantha is floored. For the first time, her hypnosis hasn't fully worked. Rattled, she tries again, and blurts out, almost involuntarily, an order for him to hug her, which only leaves Shio baffled. Meanwhile, Wen presses Feng about what exactly he saw in the ancient war memories. Feng, reluctant to reveal much, gets drawn into a pointed hypothetical from Wen about 2 rulers, one who protects his people, another who believes in culling the weak to forge a stronger generation, clearly fishing to learn where Shio's sympathies would lie. Feng, growing suspicious, deflects, but his distrust of Wen only deepens. Right then, Shio calls Feng over, pointedly gesturing at Samantha's odd behavior. Flustered, she scrambles to cover with a joke about just messing around. Right as Wen arrives, and she quietly warns him that Shio isn't like ordinary people. Winter shows up moments later. Samantha makes her exit, and Shio ignores Winter entirely, until Winter blocks his path, accusing him of getting too full of himself lately. Shio looks him dead in the eye, and says Winter means nothing special to him anymore. Once a rival he respected, now just a coward who destroyed his own worth through betrayal. He walks off without a backward glance. Alone, Wen admits to Samantha that Shio is harder to read than he expected. She insists he's dangerous. If he can resist hypnosis, he should be eliminated immediately, and Luochen can do it any time. Wen refuses outright. His curiosity about Shio isn't satisfied yet. When she presses him on what's so special about him, Wen brushes it off and orders that no one, Luochen included, act without his explicit go-ahead. The match, he insists, proceeds normally for now. Before the match, Shio reassures Etsima not to worry. Win or lose, he'll always be by her side. She's visibly moved. The players head into the arena as the stadium erupts with anticipation, split between camps as Shio and Winter make their entrances, old resentments clearly simmering on Winter's end. As the battle begins, Luochen wastes no time launching a sweeping area attack that costs Winter a life outright. Eczima cleverly reflects his next attack and steals a card in the process, while Jian's fighter also takes a hit. She then chains Jian's fighter to her own, stripping him down to 1 life, and Winter finishes him off shortly after. Furious that Luochen is trying to pick off the weaker fighters to isolate Shio and Eczima, Winter attacks him directly, claiming the right to defeat Shio for himself, and takes Luochen's first life with his sword. Shio then arms Feng and redirects his attack toward Winter instead of Luochen, finishing him off with a barrage of cards and eliminating him from the game. Samantha, unable to comprehend Shio's growing power, slams a hidden switch, plunging the entire arena into darkness. Panic spreads as the broadcast cuts out, and staff usher the crowd toward the exits. Then Luochen, laughing, declares the real game is starting now. He performs his blood ritual again, and blue flames engulf both his and Feng's weapons as a brutal clash erupts between them, while Luochen's fighter deliberately bypasses Chu entirely, revealing this was a trap all along. Luochen taunts that no matter how the fight goes, only one winner can walk away, meaning someone has to be sacrificed. Samantha smiles at Shio, saying his fate was sealed before the match even began. Luochen lands a brutal hit on Chu, badly wounding him. Eczima retaliates and steals a card, but as Luochen turns his attention back to her, she pushes through with a devastating attack of her own that leaves both fighters visibly, genuinely suffering for the first time. But the effort costs her. She collapses again, her attack window expiring. Luochen turns the psychological screws on Shio, warning him that if he doesn't finish Eczima now, she'll eventually turn on him to survive. Shio, torn, realizes that attacking Luochen now would leave Eczima defenseless on the next turn, paralyzing him with indecision. Nearby, Wen quietly overrules Samantha's earlier restriction, curious to see how Shio escapes this trap. Finally, Shio decides he can't wait any longer. He and Feng launch a full-force joint attack, but Luochen's armor holds, until Eczima, who'd only been faking unconsciousness, strikes at the perfect moment and shatters it. Shio and Feng move at lightning speed, chaining devastating blows until Shio lands a final, monstrous strike that sends Luochen's fighter crashing down, eliminating him for good. Their teamwork and sheer brutality leave everyone speechless. Shio calls the battle over, formally withdrawing and handing Eczima the win. But then Feng's body starts scattering into the air. Shio, unable to stop it, breaks down completely, apologizing for never getting to say a proper goodbye before collapsing himself. It becomes clear he's sacrificed both his life and Feng's just to save Eczima, who watches in utter disbelief at what he's given up for her. Shio wakes in the hospital, with Zheng and a doctor at his side. Barely speaking, he immediately asks about Zheng, who tells him she woke up a week ago, and that trying to summon her own fighter again has been pointless. It never came back despite thousands of attempts. Shio, stunned, realizes nearly 2 months have passed since the incident, during which the tournament simply resumed, the whole disaster brushed off publicly as a power outage accident. He asks about the peace book. Zheng admits she's found nothing solid but insists they shouldn't give up. Shio, however, has resigned himself. Feng is gone for good, he says, and no one will ever believe the truth of what happened. He tells her to just forget it all. Hurt and angry, she leaves. Alone, Shio watches Echima's ongoing match on screen, assuming her father's influence is the only reason she hasn't been pulled from the tournament. Then a voice stops him cold. He turns and, astonished, finds Feng standing right there. He punches him out of sheer disbelief and relief, admitting he thought he'd lost him forever. Feng smiles and says he missed him too. It turns out fighters aren't truly destroyed until the blue flame fully consumes them. Losing a battle merely puts them into a kind of shutdown state. Feng explains his memories are now complete and touches his head to Shio's to share the full truth. Shio is pulled into the memory. 2 rulers, along with their retainers, locked in a war to the death. One is the evil ruler, wielding the blue flame fighter. A young Feng, desperate to protect his people, is told by his master that stopping the destruction means destroying the source of evil itself, a massive book radiating the same blue flame. Shio realizes, with a jolt, that it's the very same peace book. Young Feng heeds his master's words, channels everything he has into containing the flames, and after a brutal struggle, manages to seal the evil away. Peace follows for years afterward. Feng grows up, trains new disciples, and teaches them not just power but the truth behind the book, a devastatingly dangerous artifact capable of summoning legendary heroes across eras, heroes that can only be controlled once their summoner has dominated everyone else through brutal, bloody battles. Whoever survives as the sole victor gains power beyond imagination, enough to rule the entire world. Every time the Peace Book has been activated throughout history, it has brought nothing but ruin and countless deaths. Years pass, Feng's disciples grow up, and eventually the same ancient war reignites, the very war Shio and Ekima have been investigating all along. The world again teeters on collapse, until Feng and his disciples reseal the book, averting disaster once more. But the memory ends on a chilling note. As Feng draws his final breath, he says that when the next disaster comes, it will fall to Shio, by name, to stop it before everything ends. Then he vanishes for good. Coming out of the memory, everything clicks into place for Shio. Wen and Samantha intend to repeat the same ancient ritual, using the Peace Book's power to seize control of the world once more. Feng tells him the choice of what to do now is his alone. Shio works through it aloud. Feng, Chu, and the other legendary fighters technically died thousands of years ago, only to be resummoned by the Peace Book's power and weaponized in the present. This tournament, he realizes, was never just a game. It's part of a destructive cycle Wen and Samantha are engineering deliberately, aiming to recreate the ancient final battle in order to claim ultimate power over the world. Feng poses the critical question: who's actually behind all this? Who wants to revive the ritual after all this time? Shio, thinking hard, suddenly recalls seeing a face resembling Wen's in the ancient war memories, convincing him Wen is connected to the old enemies, with Samantha as his chief accomplice. He reasons that no single person could pull off something this massive alone, and realizes something crucial. The fact that Ekima and her father are both still alive means the enemy still needs them. He and Ekima, along with the other selected fighters, must be the chosen participants for the final battle, which is exactly why Wen and Samantha haven't eliminated them yet. But now the balance has shifted. Shio and Feng know the truth, and the enemy has no idea. Shio declares that if the winner of the final battle inherits ultimate power, then he intends to be that winner. He won't let anyone else rule the world. Laughing, he tells Feng that from here on the two of them will become the rulers of this new era. Meanwhile, Samantha arrives at a hidden underground base where the Peace Book is concealed, and Wen is already waiting. He asks how Shio is recovering. She reports he's doing fine and healing fast. Wen just smiles quietly, as though everything is unfolding exactly according to his plan. And with that, the first part of this story ends, right at its most gripping moment. Only this first part is currently available. If a continuation is made, it'll be covered as soon as it releases.